What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Stock Hustle channel with your boy William. Today is Tuesday, October 5th, and this will be my second video for the day. For those of you that tuned in for the first one, once again, I always thank you for watching, first and foremost, as I do appreciate that sincerely. Number two, thank you for all the likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions that I do get. Again, it is very much appreciated, guys. It's good to know that the content you're making is either being utilized by someone or that someone is actually using it for good purposes, maybe potentially in their own personal financial goals. But with that being said, let's get into it, as I want to keep the video short. So this one's going to be a little bit of a blast from the past. If you guys remember this stock, which is ticker BNGO, it is Bionanogenomics Incorporated. So if you guys were around in the stock market in essentially late November, early December of 2020, you might have heard of this company, as it did essentially go from a run-up out of a penny stock area from 6 cents potentially, and it did skyrocket, as you guys do see here, essentially all the way up to, I believe the high at the time was 1569. We'll just call it 1560 to be fair, right? So if you were part of this, you did enjoy a multiplication of your money in a very, very nice and beautiful way, to be honest, all up until essentially early part of February is when this started to bleed off, and started bleeding off with the Nasdaq when it corrected in February all the way through May, and then in June, early June, it did get a little bit of push to the upside, and then since then has been essentially falling back to this line of support that you see down here at $5.05. Taking a real quick peek at the indicators, as you see, the MACD had this massive spike on this buying period early in the part of the year, followed by a sell-off which lasted significantly till the end of May, like I mentioned, before it had its little boost. And then essentially now it's been essentially consolidating. As you see, the MACD does not have wild fluctuations, trying to gravitate towards that center line in the middle. Another little thing to note, interesting in the indicators, again, the RSI back here when we had this run-up, majorly in the overbought, corrected. Once it corrected and it got down in this lower channel, this dotted line you see here in the middle is essentially neutral in the RSI, or otherwise registered as 50, that you see over here. Since this correction to the downside has essentially trended down here below the 50, or below neutral on the RSI, with the exception to this little peak in early June, and then gravitated right back to it and has been bouncing off oversold and neutral essentially for the last 4 or 5 months. So also something to note, at the ATR you see a 28-cent swing, or otherwise, if you like to double it, 56-cent swing potential to the upside or to the downside. So what is Bionanogenomics? So Bionanogenomics is a DNA sequencing company, right? As described here on their website, Bionano Systems provides essential genomic information no other technology can provide to help advance greater understanding of the genomic biology. Bionano's next-generational mapping combination proprietary nano-channel arrays with optical mapping to image extremely long, high molecular weight DNA in its most native state. The technology enables unparalleled structural variation sensitivity, genome assembly, contiguity, hundreds of times that of short-read sequencing alone, and the accuracy to correct sequencing errors. So essentially what this company is, this is the system called the Sapphire system, as you see labeled here. I'm a little bit familiar with this company because, as I mentioned, I was an investor in December and January on the run-up the first time. But essentially what they do is they take your DNA, they run it through their machine, and it comes back and spits out a DNA sequencing analysis that can potentially help determine things like, as you see here, cancer, or specific autoimmune disorders, or even mapping for specific people who may have children who have, for example, autism. There's been a lot of studies. They have all their publications here on their website. If you are interested in that, I would definitely encourage you. But what we're getting from this information essentially is that this company is something that's brand new, right? It's DNA sequencing and genomics sector, as described by many investors, for example, like Kathy Wood. She explains in a lot of different conversations or interviews she's had that the genomic sector is where the next big boom will come, because as the technology improves, so will our diagnosing, and so will our potential treatment and cure for illnesses that they are finding can be treated through your DNA. Again, there's an article here from Investor Palace that I did quote. It says, indeed, genomic stocks have garnered a tremendous amount of attention of late. Various high-profile growth investing gurus such as Cathie Wood have jumped on this growth sector as an area of focus. Gravitate to the word growth, right? Because this has potential. As we see from the chart, it did achieve a peak of 15. It did fall back to 5. Obviously, this is a very brand new industry, so the potential is still there. This is something you would consider growth or for long-term holding. I myself am planning on going back into BNGO. I've already, as I mentioned from early in the year, I was an early on investor, and I plan to go back. Once this sell-off started is essentially when I sold. I believe it was here at this gap down when I sold, but this does have a lot of potential. This sector does have a lot of potential, specifically for all of those that do have Lucid Tracking. If you go into Lucid Tracking, and I can pull it up real quick, it gives you access, as I mentioned, to ARK Invest, BlackRock, and Global X. ARK Invest and BlackRock both have a specific genomic sector. If I can go ahead and find it real quick. Here, we'll do it this way. Go to the very top. I'll show you real quick BlackRock's, because I did go to take a look to see if they were specifically had added this play to the BlackRock portfolio, and I'll show you in a minute why that was. Well, I guess while this loads we can go. So I did take the liberty of going and looking up institutional ownership, and I wanted to see who had bought in to BNGO. And you see here specifically as of August 11th and August 13th, the two big giants. BlackRock did go in with 18.3 million shares valued at $134 million. And then you see Vanguard also picking up 14.8 million shares worth a total of 108 million shares. So as I was stating here in Lucid, there is a sector specifically just listed for them under the genomic sector, which I think is right here. Yeah, genomics and immunity. See, they have a section just for genomics where they invest in only genomic plays. ARK Invest also has one. So that's really promising when you see, first and foremost, big institutional ownership and these two giants going in. Because again, as you've seen for many other plays that I've shown you, they are literally in everything. But seeing them going into this company and into this space, number one, is very promising for growth. Number two, you need to ask yourself, why would the two biggest hedge funds essentially buy a company they feel would fail? That should automatically tell you in the back of your mind, okay, this is a long-term play. This is a growth play. This has potential to continue to grow as time goes on, right? Not every play that you play in the stock market is a 1 month, 2 week, 3 week, 6 month play. Some of these options that you have available, when you don't want to be stressing or looking at the charts every single day, you can simply find a play like BNGO. You put your money in, you throw it a little bit at a time or all together, depending on your investment style, right? I would encourage you buying on dips, but hey, everybody does things different. And then just letting it grow with time. You just let this sit, which gives you two advantages. Number one, it gets you a tax advantage because you didn't sell within a year of buying it. And number two, it eliminates the stress you have to deal with when it comes to the stock market, because again, as I've always stated, in the stock market, you need to be sure you control your emotions so you don't make irrational decisions based on what the market is showing or giving you. Again, you need to base it on conviction, analysis, and information that you get. But looking further into the analysis, let's take a quick peek. I did go ahead and pull the Nasdaq site specifically for BNGO. As you do see here, they are rating them a strong buy. They have analysis prediction of BNGO over the last 3 months with a target of $10. Well, at $10 target, you're at 5 here. That's a double up. So if you put 1,000, essentially, if it hits this target, you now have 2,000. However, please keep in mind that the high is upwards of 15. Also keep in mind the institutional ownership, which to me would signify they are going to try to get more money than just a double up. You could easily double up having that much money in a million other plays. So why even go into this space? That tells you, especially a new space, right? A new type of technology, something that's going to make dramatic changes as it's improving, kind of like EV was back if you went to 2008, or if you went into Bitcoin back into 2005, right? Same situation. There's growth potential. So you got to keep that in mind. But I did find this interesting that they have a target of 10, and that's the high and the low. Again, there's not many analysis on it, but to see that does show a lot of encouraging information. I did also take a quick peek at their financials because I had researched their financials back in the early part of the year, and I was interested to see this. Back in December 31st of this past year, they were holding essentially $38.4 million in cash and cash equivalents. That number has grown dramatically, as you see here highlighted, $332.5 million. That is exponential growth. I did also find it promising that their total or contract liabilities specifically went from 416 to 445, so they did increase their liabilities a little. However, their long-term debt that they had of 16 million is now officially gone. A company with no debt is always going to be a better choice than a company that has significant debt. Long-term contractual liabilities, which I'm assuming is with some of the schools or hospitals they do business with, went from 98,000 to 213,000. So your total liabilities did essentially decrease by $15 million. That's, again, another promising note. I will leave these financials tagged at the bottom of my video if you want to dig into them. I don't always quote financials, but it's good to be able to understand and interpret what the financials are telling you. But as always, guys, this potential play is very interesting to me. Again, I do plan on establishing a long position for all of my option holders. The option chain is looking pretty bullish as well. As you see, call premium 161,000 compared to put premium in 103,000. As you see on the left side, I do have a filter to 10,000 premium or more. And if we go into the charts, it's essentially neck and neck, right? But interestingly enough, when you remove this piece, right, going from the run up in February, as you see up here, to current, and then you look at the chart, it actually changes the dynamic a little bit. Automatically, then now you see that the bulls are above the bears on expiration dates, for all expiration dates specifically, and specifically for this strike, the $6 strike. You have the $8 strike, and I believe the $20 strike. If I was a player into options and I was going to play this as an option, just to give you guys some quick info on what I would do, first and foremost, I would try to shoot for either the January, the February, or the May, wanting to give myself as much time as possible. Again, this is a growth opportunity for a new industry that's in its infancy, so you got to keep those two things in mind while at the same time understanding who's playing this play, right? So looking at the February, which is probably the closest one I would play if I did, looking at the delta, obviously the $6 strike does look very promising and favorable. Essentially for $81 or $88, you could easily put a bid in this excuse me, for $86 and more than likely get accepted, or even $85, giving you full control of 100 shares of BNGO. In which case, instead of spending $500 to buy 100 shares, you could easily just spend $85, have that same control, and be enjoying $50 for every single dollar that BNGO does go up. If it does double or triple as anticipated, that's going to be a nice little payoff for yourself. Again, if you don't want to play it this close, you could even go to the January 2023, which I would be more than comfortable doing. And as you see here, 0.55 delta on the $8 expiration. And again, 130 to 158 to me is more than fair to be earning this much delta. Also giving myself a 55% opportunity to be profitable. But in the end, guys, I think you guys get the point. If you have questions, leave them down in the comments below. As always, don't forget you can always hit me up on Twitter and IG. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video as always, or share it, and I will catch you guys in the next one.